Okay, Patrick.
Where are we?
We are in Seoul, South Korea. Welcome to Korea.
Thank you. My first time ever been to Korea, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, so we are in a bottle bunker in Seoul Yeokjeom. We are pre-tasting the wines for 6 importers, and then thanks for inviting Patrick to Korea.
Yeah. What I have done from a list of wines, selected out some wines from each importer, and of course, having senior moments, I don't remember exactly which 6 or 7 wines. So we're going to take a look at them first blind. You and I will talk about them a little bit, and then I'm going to be writing fairly detailed notes about each wine. But it's a process of just enjoying wine. How do we determine quality in wine? At the end of the day, when we blind taste, what's more important than variety or region is quality. Aromatics, how intense are the aromas? Are we getting several different pleasant aromas? Are we getting some unpleasant aromas? Appearance. Red wines, is there a lot of browning and we're concerned that the wine has been exposed to heat or the color is pure? Tasting the wine, different things. We have flavors, so we try to see if what we got on our aromas match the taste. Do we have new flavors on the taste? And is it simply 1 or 2 simple flavors? Are there any bad flavors? Does it smell of taste of Brettanomyces? Are there green notes? Are there worse notes? Or are there beautiful notes that I'm writing 3 or 4 of them down? That's complexity. You have different flavors. We look at the structure of the wine. Is the wine balanced? Is the acidity and if there are tannins, are they balanced by fruit and maybe a little sweetness? A very important thing is how much flavor are we getting and how long do we have flavor? The longer that we have good flavors and the more complex, the higher the quality of the wine. Shall we go through and nose these wines and take a couple tastes and talk about them?
Yeah, so we'll try to pick out 5 wines out of this. All right, let's taste.
Taste. So we did the wines blind. All 7 wines were pretty much delicious.
Right.
And so the question is, it's like somebody who has 7 children and they've got to choose their top 5 favorite children. Almost impossible to do. But we're going to do it anyway.
Okay.
We're only going to talk about the wines that we chose and why we chose them. We're going to start with a white wine. Wine number 3, which is medium yellow, maybe a little bit less than that in color. On the nose, it's complex, but it's hard to put my finger on it. There's non-specific fruit, maybe a little fruit salad, a hint of mineral, maybe some melon. But all I know is that it smells good, right? So let's take a taste. I get lemon, apple, melon, a hint of some toastiness, but toastiness more so from some lees stirring than from oak. There may be a little bit of oak there, but if so, it's very much in the background. Medium plus bodied, good acidity. Medium to medium plus alcohol. There's a slight bit of tannin there that tells me it's seen some wood at some point, either that or some skin contact. Good plus to very good length. I thought the quality was very good. My initial thought was, what the hell is it? I thought I had some tea characteristic. I was trying to pigeonhole this into a ripe Chablis, but it didn't quite go there. So you have French style wine. This is a wine from California, from Paso Robles. The partnership between the Perrin family of Domaine Beaucastel and Robert Haas, who had been their longtime importer. So this is Tablas Creek wine, and that's largely Grenache Blanc, but with Viognier, Marsanne, Roussanne, and just a touch of Bourbon. Delicious wine. I loved it. Now we're going to try number 2, and there's a reason why we went in this order. So this is light yellow in color. It's got some beautiful toastiness and citrus. It's an elegant nose, yeasty, bit of toast and biscuit, hint of sweetness on the dosage because you need a little bit of sweetness to balance fairly profound acidity, very good acidity, medium to medium plus body, medium alcohol, creamy texture, round in the mouth but elegant and fine with these acidity that penetrates. This is champagne, and I went back and forth because I got toastiness on it by the color and the citrus notes that are dominant, Blanc de Blanc, but was it a outstanding non-vintage Blanc de Blanc or a vintage Blanc de Blanc with some bottle age? We found out the easy way by opening up the bottle, the unveiling bottles. This is a vintage Blanc de Blanc, though from 2017, so it now has a number of years of bottle age. It's probably about 5 years of bottle age. Wonderful.
I loved it.
And I've never had this producer before.
And I think it's getting better in the glass.
It's getting better in the glass, yeah. And let's go on to our next one, which is a rosé wine, but with some orange notes. And as our dear friend Peter Kofflitz would call this partridge eye.
What does it mean?
It's the eye of a bird called the partridge that has this color eye. But again, it's a pink with some orange hue. This wine has a higher dosage than the previous one because you have some tannin on this wine. The sweetness helps to counterbalance the tannin. It's a champagne, a rosé champagne. It's a non-vintage champagne. It's from Bollinger. It's outstanding, but this is a full-bodied rosé champagne. This is a champagne for a red wine lover. I love Bollinger. Bollinger had long been a supporter of the Institute of Masters of Wine, so I've been to many events where we've had Bollinger, usually not the rosé. I thought it was a beautiful wine.
Okay.
Bolle. And let's move on to our red wines. We had 3 red wines, and we had to choose 2 of them, and it was very difficult. We're going to do wine number 7 first, because that was the lightest of the 2. And this wine is light in color, though it's got a slight orange brick note to it, more than it's light. Light to medium red, 1 to 2 plus brick. It's got developed notes on it of some game, mushroom, iodine, but there's also berry characteristics. There's some earthiness, medium to medium plus body, good plus acidity, around 14% alcohol, firm-ish tannins. And when I initially tasted this wine, I thought it was Pinot Noir that had some development. And then when I initially smelled it, then I tasted it, I thought, could it be Nebbiolo? So I went back and forth. Is this Pinot? Is it Nebbiolo? It's neither one, but it's Etna Rosso. I love the wines from Etna Rosso, from Mount Etna in Sicily. They can be a relative bargain compared to either the wines from the Nebbiolos from Piemonte or Burgundy. So it's an interesting wine, a fun wine, I think a delicious food.
When I first tasted it tastes like Pinot Noir, but then as the time goes past, makes you think it's Nebbiolo.
Yeah, they were all delightful. We came up with 5.
Well, we have one more.
We have one more.
Number 6.
Oh, sorry.
Number the very last one.
Okay, so this wine, the final wine, is the darkest in color. It's medium garnet red with some clearing at the rim. I'm struck right at the front. It's got some green notes to it. Our friend Peter would say quince, but has some greenness there, and then underneath the greenness is cassis fruit, maybe a hint of berry. It's full-bodied, medium acidity, 14.5% alcohol, I'd say. Full-bodied. There's a hint of salinity, saltiness to it on the front that I like. The fruit overwhelms the green notes. Nice balance between the acidity and the tannins. The tannins are well managed. New World. I thought this was a Cabernet Sauvignon from Chile, which it is, and we have a wine from Chile.
Manso de Velasco.
Manso de Velasco, and it's from Torres, Miguel Torres, and it's 2019 Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is now a New World style wine that's going to be better with fuller foods, beef, more beef, or some lamb. All nice wines.
Yeah.
And this is just one of 6 groupings.
So we have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go.
Yeah, so we'll move on to a second round of tasting.
Okay.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, so this is second round of tasting. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
All right. How was the second flight?
Very good. We're not quite in the purple teeth range yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Exactly.
So we're on a second of 6 flights. It's running a bit of a marathon today, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just get down to it. So we started off, we had 3 white wines and 4 red wines. We had 7 wines, and we had to narrow it down to 5, which again was a little bit easier this time around. All the wines were nice, but some were nicer than others.
Okay.
Let's start with the first wine that we're keeping in, which is wine number 2. Light to medium, light plus yellow color. It's got some green notes on it, but it's more herbal rather than vegetal green notes. And you get slight green notes, and then you get this tropical fruit with some tangerine. That combination happens only in one place. That's in New Zealand. This is a very nice New Zealand Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, a medium plus bodied, very nice crisp acidity, balanced alcohol. There may be some slight tannin there from a little bit of skin contact. This is from Craigie Range which is one of my favorite New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc producers, which is why I selected it to be included in these tastings. I thought it was a beautiful wine. It works with a range of foods. You can have it as an aperitif. It holds up to a lot of different ethnic and protein sources. Wine number 3. So wine number 3 is less exuberant. New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs are out there. They are powerhouses. This is a bit more restrained, a bit more elegance. I like both styles of wine. And in this wine, you got citrus, maybe a little bit of oatmeal, and those flavors are more pronounced on the palate. Rich flavors in the mouth, but firm acidity, elegance, and surprisingly long. So when we were talking off camera, I thought, oh, this is Chablis, and then I wanted to know, is it Premier Cru Chablis? Which is not. It's Appellation Contrôlée Chablis that tastes like Premier Cru Chablis. So I think this is a great buy. This wine is very, very good. So Chablis, chalky soils, crisp acidity, elegance, more ripeness now with global climate change from Chardonnay grape, works with a whole range of seafoods, very food friendly.
Yeah, I only wrote down one thing, elegant.
Elegant, yeah, very elegant, right? Very elegant, and we both liked it a lot. So we got 2 white wines, and we're going to recommend 3 reds. So the first wine that we tasted is wine number 4, which is fairly light red in color, light ruby red in color, clearing at the rim. We smell this, we get berry fruit, a little bit of spice. I'm not getting any gain from development. On the palate, medium bodied, good acidity. I didn't look up the alcohol. For me, I wrote down about 13.5%. The tannins are there, but they're silky. To me, this is Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir from the New World. I didn't find any place in California this wine's going to come from. They would have had it a bit riper and kissed with more obvious oak. So this took me to the southern hemisphere. Tasmanian wines tend to be a bit more cool climate and a bit more focus. This is a bit riper. New Zealand Pinot Noir. Very nice wine. Now we're moving on a horse of a different color, literally a different color, because this has got light color, you can see through it, but a tremendous amount of orange and amber color to it. And then when you smell it, you get this iodine, tar, on the palate a hint of roses. Powerful, full-bodied wine. It doesn't look like it from the color. Powerful, full-bodied wine. Lots of acidity, lots of tannin there. This is a wine that if you're going to purchase it, do yourself a favor. You're going to have it in the evening, decant it no later than noontime.
Okay, I like this Barolo as well.
Yeah. Our last wine, and again, horses of different colors. We have the light color but slightly amber Brick Nebbiolo, and now we've got this dense purple garnet, some clearing at the rim, a little bit of age, and we're getting very different aromas here. More primary aromas of some berry fruit. Is there some cassis there? I'm not getting some of the green notes I would get from Chile. I'm not getting the power. But look, there's lots of extract.
Right.
The tears have lots of color to them. And even though we have that extract and the color, the tannins are surprisingly restrained. Certainly after tasting that Nebbiolo. And so this wine is coming from Argentina, and instead of having Cabernet Sauvignon in it, it's Malbec and Cabernet Franc. So the Cabernet Franc is helping to tame the Malbec, and you have a surprisingly drinkable, deeply colored purple wine.
The color came from Malbec, most likely, right?
Mostly from the Malbec. Though this is from the Uco Valley, which is very high altitude. And the higher altitudes, you get this ultraviolet light that gives you more resveratrol, but can give you more color as well. They manage the tannins beautifully. There's some oak there. You know, with me, oak freaks me out when it's overdone. This is a beautifully balanced wine. I loved it.
Third round of tasting. We'll talk about number 1 first.
I like this wine. This is a sparkling rosé wine. It's not champagne. So if you're expecting it to be champagne, it's not. It doesn't have the toastiness, but it's got nice acidity, some vibrant fruit, and it shows another side of sparkling wine. There's a whole world of sparkling wine besides champagne. Champagne's the king, but there's some other beautiful wines to try, and this wine is from Austria.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the producer's it's a very pretty place to visit. I've been there once a good number of years ago. It's a blend of Pinot Noir, Zweigelt.
Never heard of that.
Zweigelt.
Before.
It's sort of a spicy red wine when you have it as a regular red wine. And Saint Laurent, which is, they argue, is may or may not be related to Pinot Noir. But light pink, fruity, berry fruit, very clean, not toasty like champagne, but fresh fruit, elegant, substantially less expensive than champagne, and can be something festive for the holidays, or festive with this color like pink roses for Valentine's Day. So a wine that I like.
I loved it. Well, it's nothing like champagne, but it's still pretty pleasant to drink.
Yeah. So let's move on to the reds.
The next one you recommend was the number 4.
This was surprising. Very dense purple garnet color, and you swirl it, and the tears are a bit pigmented, so it's got a lot of extract. And so I was expecting this to be a bigger wine than it is, and that's why I liked it.
Okay.
It's very well balanced. It's a Malbec from the Mendoza, the classic region in Argentina. It has some salinity, some cassis fruit, some berry fruit, full-bodied, medium acidity, 14.5 alcohol by my palate. But the tannins are so well managed. They're ripe tannins, but they're not overwhelming. This wine, I'm sure, has some oak in it, but the fruit overwhelms the oak. It's a beautiful wine that you can drink now, and you can have this with a whole range of foods. I was most pleasantly surprised and delighted by this wine.
So the next one that you liked was number 6.
The Freemark Abbey.
Freemark Abbey.
There was a movie called Sideways in the United States that extolled the virtues of Pinot Noir. At that point in time, Merlot was being pushed, and there was very good Merlot, and there was horrible Merlot in the marketplace coming from all over the world. And in the movie, the line was, Merlot sucks. And that tended to cause Merlot sales to dive bomb. Merlot, one of the great Bordeaux varieties, tends to be rounder than Cabernet Sauvignon, tends to be a bit less tannic than Cabernet Sauvignon. Again, there are many different expressions of it. This Freemark Abbey Merlot, I thought was classic varietals. It had medium red color. Plum and cherry can be classic for Merlot, had some earthiness. Again, another wine that balanced the tannins beautifully. So you get ripe brown tannins. There's oak in there, but the fruit overwhelms the oak. It's a really nice wine, and something, again, that would be very flexible at the dining table.
I really like the balance of this wine.
Yeah. What gives you quality? For me, balance and length. So this gives you balance because the tannins are not overwhelming. When the tannins are overwhelming, that gives you bitterness that shortens the length of the wine. They could have gone for something more blockbuster, but in this situation, less is more.
Right.
Good job, Freemark Abbey.
We took a break from the previous tasting, and then now we are refreshing up with your 2 rosé wines here.
2 rosé wines, and we did this on purpose because rosé wines, in this case we have one still wine, classic Provence rosé, and the other, also another classic, a classic rosé champagne. 2 very different wines, 2 very delicious wines, and 2 very good food wines. Rosé wines are very flexible. You can have them as aperitifs during the summertime. Sipping a chilled rosé and outside is a wonderful thing to do. We have 2 principal varieties that are similar yet different. We have Grenache being the primary variety in Provence, backed up by Syrah, Mourvèdre, and some other varieties at times, sometimes Cinsault as well. Grenache, Cinsault as well, and Pinot Noir all have relatively thin skins. And the flavor profile of Pinot Noir and Grenache very similar, except that Grenache needs more heat, needs a warmer climate to ripen, whereas the Pinot can ripen pretty well in a cool climate. Even in the Champagne region, which is pretty cool, it does well. If one were to try to grow Grenache in the Champagne region right now, it would be a disaster.
Okay.
This wine has a light pink color. There's a little bit of sweetness here, somewhat from the alcohol, but mostly left in the wine because there's some tannin. So one can decrease bitterness from the tannin by adding a little sweetness, helps to give very nice balance. The fact that there's some tannin there helps to make this a really good food wine as well. So even though this looks pretty and feminine, this wine can stand up to a lot of different types of food, including some spicy foods from around the globe. So this is a labeled biological wine, 2022, very well made, and this is the classic Provençal bottle.
Right. I usually don't like rosé, but this is really good. Rosé.
Really good. And then we've got Piper Heidsieck, their rosé. And what's interesting with this is that this is made from both red grape Pinot Noir and Chardonnay as well. So using the Chardonnay to help balance the wine by having fewer tannins. It's a very pretty pink. Champagne, and especially rosé champagne, is a very good food wine. You can have it with almost anything. It's a fun thing to do. So try that and its brother or sister, that's the regular non-vintage, and try them with some different foods. That's a fun thing to do.
Okay, yeah, the color looks really, really pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, delightful. All right, so that's going to be blended into our
your selections.
Good.
Okay, moving on to the next flight. Okay, Patrick.
Where are we?
We are in South Korea.
Good.
Okay, moving on to the next flight.